This video today, I really want to share a little bit about my story, about some of the things that I've been through as an educator, and I'm sharing it at the very beginning of this new school year because there are some teachers that are out there that are probably trying to find jobs right now and feeling like they're desperate. It's the 10th hour or whatever, and they just are in the mood to accept anything. And I want to say to you, you do not have to accept just anything. You need to make sure that you know about the district that you're going into. You need to understand their philosophy. You need to know what your own philosophy of teaching is. Even though your philosophy of teaching is going to grow with you as you're an educator, you know what things are really important to you right now, what you believe in, what you've seen that you think is a good practice, and what you've seen that you think is not a good practice from other teachers. Don't allow yourself to be put in the hands of someone who is in charge of developing you as a person and seeing that you are growing. Don't put yourself in someone's hands that doesn't believe what you believe. I have been myself in times and not been accepted where I was at. And I've just learned that if you're not accepted where you're at, then go somewhere else. Don't change you. There are some people listening to this possibly right now that have worked with me in the past that if you don't like what I'm going to say, then this is my vlog, so go find another vlog to listen to today. This is my self-expression, and I'm not embarrassed or ashamed of anything that I've gone through in my life in the past, because I've always kept God at the center of everything that's happened to me. And no matter what, I have always been there for the kids, and there for improving education as a profession. We are professionals, and if we don't uphold standards in the way that we treat each other, then we're hurting the entire profession, and we're hurting education for generations and generations to come.
Let's take it on me.
All right, it's the announcement that you've all been waiting for. Is everyone ready? Drum roll, please. Next year, I will be teaching 6th, 7th, and 8th grade science. Woo! It's the same thing as last year, with the change in the fact that my 6th and 7th graders will still be semester-long courses, but my 8th graders I'm going to have all year long. Plus, I'm very excited because I'm going to be working side by side with our STEM teacher, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us to collaborate and help the kids and really push them towards being ready for what they are going to be doing at the early college and the high school courses. We're early college 6th grade all the way up through grade 13, which is that extra year of college courses that are paid for after your normal graduation time. And we really need to be getting the kids ready for those higher level science courses. So to be able to partner together as a team and share students during the same class and plan together and bounce off of each other with what we're doing, I think it's going to be a great thing for our students. I'm really super excited. I actually am very happy to be staying in the classroom this year. There is a part of me that was disappointed when I found out that I did not get assistant principal, and that's just because in life sometimes things really aren't fair, like the circumstances that you find yourself in and the things that you need to do for your family. And I really have gotten kind of a raw deal out of some of the things that have happened, which it's no one's fault, it's just life. But in general, a person's not normally thinking about going into administration after they've already been in teaching for 25 years. Normally that's something you kind of figure out when you're younger, you plan for it. Not everybody, but a lot of people, if they're going into administration, it's something that they pursue like in the first 10 years of their career. So I'm looking at my career and I'm saying, like, in order to be good at something, you have to do it for a number of years, and I only have so many years until retirement now. So thankfully I started at a young age, so I'm actually going to have almost 40 years into my career before I actually retire, just because of how young I was when I finished college. So that helps me out in this situation. But in general, like, other people will say, well, you know, your time will come. But when you are like approaching 50 years old and you have already done the job that you've done for so many years, and you've done it well, and you've done it in all different grade levels, hearing someone say that is like, don't say that to me. But you know, my time will come. It will happen when it's supposed to happen. And you know, I know that I didn't waste my time getting my administration degree. I know it's going to be useful, and it's even just improved me as a teacher, because when you go to that next level of looking at things from like a different lens, it just improves what you were doing before. So the fact that I'm still in the classroom and I'm able to use that knowledge of having that higher level like evaluator lens, but I'm applying it actually still in the classroom, on the front lines, as my superintendent would say. It's good. It's good for the kids. It's good for me because I am still improving. I am still learning. I'm always going to be like that. That's just the kind of person I am. Growth mindset is something that I was that type of teacher before Carol Dweck wrote the book. That was just who I always was. And sometimes it would annoy me when other teachers were not that way. Because I would hear them say things about the students that devalued their possibility in life, and I just think that you shouldn't do that to people, young or old. And I'm a firm believer also in just developing talent no matter what age group you're working with. So as a principal one day, I hope that I'll have the opportunity to be that kind of administrator where I believe in my people and I help them set goals for themselves and make them believe in more than what they are now and want to work for it for their own reasons, not because, you know, I'm marking something on their evaluation. That's just the kind of administrator that I want to be. The interview was a good experience. I'll do better at that type of interview the next time. I'll be more prepared. I don't think I did anything wrong. There's nothing that I could have done better. I was myself. And I have been myself in times and not been accepted where I was at. And I've just learned that if you're not accepted where you're at, then go somewhere else. Don't change you. Don't put yourself in someone's hands that doesn't believe what you believe. Make sure you know that about yourself. Take your time to sit down and reflect on who you are as a person and why you became an educator and what you believe in and what you feel like you need from someone coaching you in an administrative role that will help you get where you need to go and continue to grow. Part of my issue over the years, I think, with some of the people that I have ended up working in and around in the buildings I've worked in, is just that I think that ethics are super important. I think that when push comes to shove, if you have to do something shady in order to be acceptable, then you don't need to be there in the first place. I think that if you feel like you can't do you, then you need to start looking for another spot. And you definitely need to stand up for yourself. And sometimes standing up for yourself means that you might not have that job the next year. But what I learned, and this is the most freeing thing that happened to me, was that if you continue to be yourself, if you're true to yourself, and you stay kind in the middle of adversity, in the middle of, people can and will say all kinds of nasty things about you. And they will convince themselves that it's true. But as long as you stay true to who you are, you will always be an educator, and you will always be able to lead in the profession, and you will find another job. And it might not look like what you thought it was going to look like, but if you're not true to yourself, then at the end of the day, what do you have left? So I'm going to tell you 2 stories, and they're not all my stories, but they're 2 that I feel comfortable sharing today. And I'm sharing them because I'm hoping that by sharing these stories, someone listening to me is going to feel better about where they're at right now with whatever they're going through. Whether they're searching for another job, whether they're a brand new teacher and just lack confidence in themselves, or whether they've been burned in a situation that they're in. I'm hoping that by sharing this, it will help someone. I had some people talk to me before about, don't keep rehashing things that happened in your life in the past. You should just forget them and move on. I don't ever want to forget things that I've been through and completely move on, because those are the things that made me who I am, and those are the things that defined me, not in a negative way, because I didn't allow them to define me negatively. Ultimately, maybe temporarily, they defined me negatively, but after I got through to the other side, then those things defined the positive parts of who I am, and the passionate person that I became, and the outspoken person that I became, and the person who fights for what's right and fights for what's fair for people. So let me go backwards a little bit. When we moved to North Carolina, I could have stayed right where I was. I was doing very well, and in fact, if I would have stayed where I was, I probably would have been an administrator. At least in the past 5 years, I would have already been one, because that was the track that I was on. I hadn't taken any courses yet, but I had been in the same district, and I was gaining a good reputation. I was starting to be doing some presenting and things like that, and I was developing, and I wasn't great at it yet, but I was getting there. And if I would have been able to stay, I think that my career would have taken, a faster path. But that wasn't what we needed to do as a family. My husband had different problems with his work over the years and was struggling to kind of find his way. And so, you support each other as a team. That's what you do as a couple and as a family. So I bounced around in some different roles. We lived in a couple different places. At one point, I ended up going to Greensboro. And when I was in Greensboro, I was there. It was just my daughter and I. She was going into the 6th grade, and we moved thinking that eventually the entire family would move out there. My husband had some health problems, and so we had to go out there, just the 2 of us, until he was better. And we moved out there, and it was really tough because I was like a single mom with, a teenager, a preteen. And that was like rough, and it was a city area, and we hadn't really lived in the city like that before. So I was adjusting to a lot of things. We were like a little under an hour from my job where we lived, but we lived in the area a neighborhood that I felt safe in, that I felt comfortable with my daughter getting on the bus and going to school. It was just a nice area that was well maintained, and people in the neighborhood looked after each other, and that's what I wanted if I was going to be there by myself for a while. So I was there, and there was a lot of pressure on me because my husband and my other 2 daughters being back, in the Outer Banks at home. There was a lot going on. So at that time in my life, I had major stress on me. During that time, I got a job at a school that I was really excited to work at because it had a very good reputation in the state for being a school that took children that were considered to be at risk due to their backgrounds and the fact that there were a lot of students that had language barriers. And I took that job thinking, wow, I'm going to work alongside some of the greatest teachers. I'm going to learn new things. I was very open and excited about learning and excited about teaching these students, and I was really excited about helping them. And it seemed like everyone in the interview, all of the team, they gave me no reason to think that it would not be a good placement for me. When I actually got into starting to do the job, the first week was kind of rocky, and I expected it to be because I was teaching kindergarten, and I was teaching a lot of students that had no background with being in preschool and no English hardly. I was teaching a lot of those students. And then I was teaching just some other babies that just had a lot of different needs for different reasons. And so it was a challenge, and they had been without their teacher for the beginning of the school year, so I knew it was going to be a challenge going into it. But right from the get-go, my administration, my principal in particular, was very difficult, just very hard on me. I found that position, even though my heart was open to learning and I was excited about the challenge that was ahead of me, the way that professional development was approached in that school was demeaning to me. That's the way that it felt to me. And I expressed this to my principal, not right at first, because I tried to do what I was asked right at first, but it wasn't just that I was expected to grow and I was expected to, assimilate new information, because that's not a problem for me. I'm a learner. I love learning. I love growing. The problem was that I was expected to see something one day and apply it the next day and do it correctly with no mistakes. I don't know about you, but when someone puts that kind of pressure on me, I'm doomed to fail, because I can't just churn out something brand new. There is a growth process. There are many mistakes on the way to learning something new. And I think we need to allow our students to be that way, and we need to allow our teachers to be that way. We're human beings, and that's when that situation is what caused me to be sitting where I am today with an administration degree, wanting to be an assistant principal. If it hadn't been for that experience in my life, I would not have found the need to step out of the classroom, because I love to be face-to-face with the students. That's when I became a champion of teachers. That's when my mind shifted from just helping students to, wow, how many more students could I help if I could also help teachers? What kind of a school could I run if I also champion teachers? People will say, put the students first, and that is what school is about. But at the same time, if you don't nurture and take care of and love on and support your staff and give them positives, if you're always giving them the negatives and you're not giving them the accolades that they need to continue growing, and you're not, if you put the carrot too far ahead, then all you're doing is frustrating them, and that's bad for kids. What I saw in that school made me want to cry, because I saw teachers that they were putting on a show when the administrators walked in the door to keep from losing their jobs. There was a high level of stress on those teachers. In private, they would break down. In public, they were holding it all in, it was like a fortress. And I had too much compassion for people to watch other teachers go through that. But then the thing that really made me decide that school was not for me was that I saw students being mistreated, because the expectation was that if I come into your classroom and I ask your students what they're doing and why, they should be able to tell me the objective. They should be able to tell me why. Even though, let's not forget that these are kids that they have very little English. This is their first experience in a structured school setting, and their background is not supportive of learning in the way that some other backgrounds would be. Those students can succeed. I believe all students can learn, but I also believe that all students learn on their own time clock, in their own ways, and they don't learn just because someone is expecting them and pressuring them to perform in the moment. I saw kids getting screamed at because the teacher was preparing them for the evaluation that was happening the next day, and the teacher would be pounding on the table, "No, when I ask you this, you need to say this. I've told you this. Wake up." I saw students that were getting yelled at on the playground. Basically, I couldn't work in that environment. I couldn't. It made me want to cry. It made me sick. But it made me want to become an administrator so that I could do it better. As an administrator, when I do get the opportunity to have my own school, I want to be there for everybody. I want to be that encouraging and inspirational person that helps people achieve the next step, whether they're a student, whether they are a cafeteria worker, whether they are a custodian, whether they are a bus driver, whether they are a classroom teacher, whether they're, a paraprofessional, whatever. Everybody in that school community deserves to be believed in and deserves to have positive, encouraging support. You don't punish people into being better people. You don't. You never are going to get the results that you want from students by punishing your teachers. That administrator, I think when I think back on it, because it took me a long time to forgive what happened in that situation, but I'm there now. That doesn't mean I'm going to forget, because I don't ever want to forget what it felt like to be that person who was being demeaned by the evaluation process. I don't want to ever forget it, because if I forgot it, then it would take something away from who I've become. And I think that part of what's going to make me an excellent person in an administrative role is knowing what that felt like and never wanting to do that to anybody else. But when I think about that administrator, it wasn't a bad person. That administrator cared about students, but was just very misguided in what was going to be best for students. So that's where I developed my more balanced approach to, yes, do what's best for students, but part of what's best for students is retaining your teachers, is treating your teachers like gold, because the teacher is the number one factor in the classroom, in student achievement. If you take care of your teacher and you grow your teachers and you retain your teachers so that you're not constantly reforming your team over and over and over again, and they're happy there and they're thriving and blooming, then your students are going to do it too. It's natural. It trickles down. So that was story number 1. Story number 2. And in this story, I would say that because of how long the situation went on, there's always two sides to a conflict. And after you get out of something and you can step back and you can see it more objectively, you can see where your side of the conflict is. And so I would say that what I learned from this conflict about myself was that I tend to avoid things if I felt like the outcome was going to be negative. So, and it's funny because I'm an outgoing person. I'm not afraid of people, but in certain situations, when I know the outcome is going to be negative, I would rather just pretend like everything's fine and keep going, and that did not serve me well. And because of that, resentment built up in me that eventually caused me to not be my best version of myself as a person. So let me backtrack a little bit. Another situation, my husband received a request to come and help with a new church plant. The church had closed, it was reopening. They were trying to do something creative and more contemporary, and the church was an hour and a half basically from our house. So we were going to go, we were going to help with this. The plan with the two of us was that we would both get jobs near this church so that we could move, be close to the church, do the ministry, and work in the schools. And it would be like a double-sided, we could support the community from both angles, which I thought would be wonderful, to be able to help people in both roles. I got an instructional coach position. I was very excited about the opportunity to step out of the classroom and benefit more classrooms than just my own. Because if you have a passion for helping kids, then you get to a point eventually where stepping out of the classroom, you can help more kids than staying in your own classroom. And that's where I was. I was ready. I knew that I wanted to do this. But the big problem was that instructional coaching roles have to be rolled out very, very carefully. If they're not rolled out correctly in a district, then you can be the best person in the world and people aren't going to receive you. Add to that a community that has had a lot of movement back and forth because they're on the border of two states. They've had a lot of influx of people, new people. They've seen people come and go, and they're typically a close-knit community with traditional values that they don't really like people coming in from the outside. So that was the double whammy, because number one, my position was not rolled out well, and so people didn't trust my position. They didn't trust me, they didn't even know me yet. They didn't trust my position, and because I was attached to the position, therefore they didn't trust me from the very first day that I walked in the door. Number two, they didn't trust outsiders, and I was an outsider. So I did not have a lot going for me when I started the job, but I was pretty naive, and I was just so excited to do the job that I think I kind of let my excitement carry me over, and I wasn't noticing the red flags in the beginning. That if I had noticed some of them, maybe I could have addressed some of that conflict in the beginning, but I just sort of was like, it'll go away over time. Here's the thing, when I went into that role after just having the experience in Greensboro. I was a champion for teachers. That was my heart and soul that I brought into that position. I was there for the right reasons. I was there to help people, and I was there to love on people, and I was there to support that community from every angle possible. I was 100% in the right, and the reason why I came to that job. As I was in the position, the first year, I felt good about it. I think that I was naive about how well it was going, because the boss that I had was incredible, and I was learning so much from her. She really helped me to develop. She was very smart about her role, and she was very smart about, how my job could improve the district. She was smart about teaching me about long-term planning, so I learned a lot about strategic planning and developing a plan in the district over several years, and everything that I learned from her it's going to serve me as an assistant principal. I'll never have anything bad to say about her. But in general, over the years, the role that I had taken on was not perceived well by the teachers. And I think it's because it was never intentionally set as a non-threatening type of role. And teachers, to be honest with you, if you're in a district where you see teachers that are let go when they weren't really doing anything wrong, then having someone come in and watch you teach is going to make you nervous. So because they didn't know me, I was in 3 schools. It was hard to build relationships. I was going from school to school to school. When I would come in people's rooms, they did not want me in there. And I was there for the right reasons. I was there to champion teachers. I was so friendly and kind, and I did everything that I knew to get to know people. But when you get the door pretty much slammed in your face over and over and over again, or people going to their supervisor and saying, she was watching me, she was writing things down in a notebook, da 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 da, like it was like one thing after another. You stop going in classrooms because you don't want to upset people. So then what I did was I would sit and I would do some work on some of the other things that they had for me, which one thing that I was doing was helping with reading throughout the district. I was helping with the Amplify system, and so I was troubleshooting for teachers. There was plenty of stuff to do with that on a regular basis. I was, creating some presentations. There were some different, side jobs that I had, and also I could always be reviewing the state curriculum, the guidelines that were on NCDPI. There was plenty of paperwork kind of work for me to do. I was not supposed to be stuck in a classroom teaching at a certain time every day because I was supposed to be in all these teachers' classrooms. I was not supposed to be tied down to a particular group of students. So there were people that they didn't understand what I was doing. So then they started to talk about what I was doing. And they never bothered to get to know me as a person. And I think that's what hurt the most, is that they never bothered to get to know me, to know my heart for teachers, and to know that I was there to champion teachers, and that I was a good person, and that I was a loving person, and I didn't deserve what happened. But after the first year, something really bad happened. My boss that I really trusted, she got sent, she decided to take a position in another district, and it was good for her, but the person that took over had a completely different mindset about what I should be doing. Unfortunately, my role went from being able to travel and spend time in all these different teachers' classrooms and help them with exciting projects that I got to do the first year, and just do a lot of planning with teachers, sit in on PLCs and things like that. It went to where every single minute of my day was structured because some people didn't think that I was working hard enough, so they gossiped or they complained to administration, and then the new administration, my new boss, decided that they were right, that I wasn't doing enough, that I was wasting time, whatever. So he gave me a position, basically completely restructured my role to where I could not do the things that I was being evaluated on. So I basically did the best that I could. I'm a creative person. I work in blocks of time. I don't work in minutes of time. I work in, give me the overall picture and I will develop something for you, but give me the time to do it and just give me a deadline. Not every day at this time we're doing this XYZ and you're going to copy this person and be like this other person that we already love. And it's the difference between having an analytical mind and having a creative mind. And creative people have a hard time being managed by analytical people. Now, analytical people and creative people need to work together, as a team. And if there's respect in the relationship, then those people can fill in each other's like weaknesses. But when you're trying to find something wrong with a person who has the opposite personality as you and the opposite working style as you, you're going to find it. You can. I mean, I can find something wrong with anybody if that's my goal. If my goal is to determine whether they're doing the wrong thing, I'm going to determine they're doing the wrong thing. Because once you start picking a person apart, people are human, and you're going to find something that doesn't look right to you. You know, you can find a lot of things. So basically, I was going through that. I was going through, you know, people going to higher ups and gossiping about me, saying things that they had really not enough information to be claiming, and a lot of them were false. I was being lied about over and over again. And then I had a situation where there was a transition between the two supervisors where we had purchased some materials, and there was a difference of opinion about who should be in charge of distributing and organizing those materials. And because it wasn't specifically stated exactly who was going to do what when the transition happened, and there was some time in between where there wasn't really, strong leadership in that regards, in the transition time, I got blamed for the fact that there were some people that had to work on this and they didn't think they should. It wasn't my decision that it would be their job to categorize and organize these materials and keep track of them. But the role that I had wouldn't allow me to work on that all the time. And so then there was a difference of opinion about, oh, she's not doing anything, she's just sitting around, so why can't she do it? So then I became a target for bullying. I want to tell you that no one, no matter what your role is, should be bullying you. Adults can be bullies too. This thing that happens when students are young, people don't always grow out of it. If certain people, if they don't get their way, they will say and do whatever they need to say and do, even if it's a flat out lie, and they will lie to themselves so that they think they're telling the truth. That's the situation that I found myself in, and unfortunately, the person that was supposed to protect me was not there to protect me. That person refused to hear what I had to say because of power in the district, because of perceptions of who was calling the shots, because of the fear of losing their own job. This is why I'm telling you this today. Be careful who you work for. When you're in a situation where people in the higher up positions are there to encourage and support you as a professional and really truly want you to grow throughout your career and are going to put themselves on the line to see that happens, and they support you in a positive way instead of in a evaluate you out the door way, you're going to be everything that you can be. But when you're in a situation where the person above you is trying to find fault, then you're not going to achieve your full potential. And the students that are under you are not going to do well either. What's best for students is for you to take care of yourself. What's best for students is for you to find a fit where you know that you can trust. The person that you're giving your trust to is going to be something that's going to have your back. If the administrators have been doing what they should have been doing, then the bullying would have been shut down immediately when I first mentioned it informally. But that didn't happen. It was allowed to go on because of how long that person had been in the district. And I'm going to tell you that it doesn't matter whether somebody grows up in an area, whether they're friends with everybody. they don't have a right to treat you that way. They don't. And the person who is your administrator should be taking care of you and not allowing that to happen. If you find yourself in a situation like that, you need to get out of it as soon as you can. I don't know why I thought that I could just ignore it and it would go away, because it just got worse the more that I ignored it. The less I stood up for myself, I just found that people continued to take advantage of me more and more and more. Now, let me back up, because I have to say that God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. And when you are in a bad situation, if you are a person who knows the love of Jesus, then God is going to bring people alongside you that help you, that support you, that believe in you, that love on you. And that happened to me in both of those situations, in both of those stories. There are some very dear people to me that I don't always get to speak to, but that I have very kind regard for, in the way that they supported me through those such situations, in the way that they saw the wrong that was being done and they acknowledged it for what it was. And even though they couldn't publicly share their feelings, because that would have put them at risk, being acknowledged and being seen and being cared for was everything that I needed to get through that. And sometimes you just have to do your job until the end of the year and get through it, because your family needs you. And financially, my family was in a position where I couldn't just be like, forget this, I don't believe in this, I'm out of here, and here's my 30 days. I couldn't do that. So I had to work till the end of the year, no matter what. And I made it through. I got the help that I needed. I went and I saw a counselor, and I unloaded and I told her everything that happened. And she told me, if you want to pursue this, I think that you have a case. Legally, there were some things that were done that were not right, not according to the code of ethics, not according to the expectations. But once again, in my heart, I was like, what is that going to do? What is that going to prove? Ultimately, I'm going to have to suffer longer as we go through all of this, and students will suffer because resources will be pulled away from them trying to fight it. So what's the point? So I just let it go. I was angry for a while, but I processed it, and I prayed through it, and I received the healing that I needed, and it came to a point where I was able to forgive the people that had done things to me. And some of them never to this day have acknowledged that they did things that were wrong in the situation, but I forgave them. And I forgave them, but I didn't forget. And remembering those two stories is what is going to make me a different kind of administrator. And there's even more. There's more to the stories. There's layers of things that were going on. But I'm telling you this because I want you to know that you are valuable. What you believe is valuable. Who you were created to be is valuable. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You need to be yourself, and you need to find a place where being yourself is a good fit, and don't stop looking until you find it. Just like, maybe it wasn't my year to be assistant principal. Okay. I'm hoping that I can be assistant principal still in the place that I'm in right now, because I've moved around a lot and I don't really want to go to another district ever. But I know that I'm going to be an assistant principal one day, when the fit is right, when the people are right. It's not about me. It's about timing. And, I'm going to continue to grow and learn where I'm at, because I believe that the people that are over me are people that have my best interest at heart, and I will continue to grow. So find yourself the right situation where you are going to be nurtured, where you can plant your roots, where you will be fertilized and watered, and you will grow in the sunshine. Anything less than that for you is not enough in your career. And I'm talking to the beginning teachers, I'm talking to the mid-career teachers, I'm talking to the end career teachers. You are valuable and you are worth it. I hope that my story has helped someone. Like I said, anybody that was in, around, or involved in that, at this point in my life, I have let it go. I haven't forgotten, because it's going to make me better, but I've let it go. And so, no hard feelings, but that's my story. And I hope you got something out of it today. If you have a story that you'd like to share with me, or something that this resonates with from your past or your story or your career, I'd love to hear about it. You can send me a comment, and you can message me. I have a Facebook page that has a messenger so that you can send it to me privately if you'd like, but I'd love to hear your stories. One day I'm going to be telling these stories. I'm going to be writing a book in my retirement, but for now I just want to positively impact other teachers. I want to help teachers, encourage teachers to become the best them that they know how. All right, everybody, have a great evening. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to work hard, be kind, and amazing things will happen.